One of the most common things we get asked as archaeologists is what's the best thing you've ever found? Today we're going to try and answer that for you. We've been out here on Lindisfarne for 2 whole weeks looking for the remains of the original Anglo-Saxon monastery that got attacked by Vikings in AD 793. As well as walls, archaeological features and burials. We've started to find some exquisite personal artefacts that may have belonged to the people who lived here before, during and after the Viking raids. So we've gone round our team and we've asked them this question especially for you. What is your favourite find?
My favourite find this year has been this copper pin. It's really beautiful, as you can see, and when you're excavating something and you've been staring at a big pile of mud for quite a long time, something with a flash of green, something a very unusual shape and something quite pointy really catches your eye. So this one jumped out of the ground, and you always have that moment of, ooh, am I actually looking at what I'm looking at? And you start to notice all the finer details. So the beautiful worked head of the pin, which has got a nice bit of detail on, and you realise how sharp it still is, even though it's been in the ground for a really long time. And you just start to imagine who would have worn it and how would they have used it, and feel really special and privileged that you get to find something which hasn't seen the light for over 1,000 years, but was perhaps really special and really treasured by somebody once. So yeah, it's my favourite.
Some of my favourite finds out here at Lindisfarne have been these quartz pebbles that we've been finding everywhere. And they're all a little different, and they're all different sizes. And the thing that really interests me about them is that they're little markers of that wonderful word we like to use, ritual. They are little tokens of humanity and their conscious actions, connections to what this site has been about for many centuries, and it's a special place where people have come to recognize something and to connect with people and their sense of spirituality, I guess.
My favourite find is this finger that I found on Tuesday. I was troweling and it just popped out of the ground, and it turned out that it was still wearing 2 rings, which was quite amazing to find. And when it first came out, I thought it was a piece of plastic because the bone was green as well. And then I looked at it more closely and realised that it was a finger still wearing rings.
My favourite find of the dig is this little namestone fragment for a couple of reasons. First of all, this was the only thing I was actually allowed to clean up myself, because usually I'm doing all the other stuff, but I scrubbed it and then this little pattern just appeared and just become really clear. And I like how it's very symmetrical and it feels very nice when you put your finger over it. And also what came out is part of the name, and I just like to imagine even what this first letter is, whether it's a rune. Apparently it could be a rune or it could be Latin, but it's just a really nice little piece, and it fits into your hand and it just feels very nice, and it's so pretty. It's very shallow, but I really like it. It's nice.
So my favourite find isn't an object, it's not a small find, it's got to be the structures. So with just a couple of days left to dig, we discovered that what we thought was a small oven, maybe in the corner of a building, is actually just the very top of something much larger, kind of industrial kiln. We're really not sure what it is at the moment. There's so much burning in the ground, and it's enormous. This feels like it's just the beginning, really.
Alright, so this is one of my favourite finds from the site so far, and it's an Anglo-Saxon namestone, and these are very interesting because we only find these in Northumbria, so most of them have actually been found here on Lindisfarne, and we get several others from Hartlepool. And what I really like about these is that these namestones, as you can tell from the name, have the actual names of the people who were buried. These are quite high-class items. You need someone to sculpt it in here, but what we do see is that they often come with runes on them. So this here has an inscription in the runic alphabet. Often they also have Latin inscriptions, and these are the actual names of the people who lived and died at Lindisfarne. I think that's really powerful, to pull something out of the ground that had a name that was spoken, that someone knew this person. They had friends, they had family, and they lived and died here on Lindisfarne, and that's why this is one of my favourite objects.
Okay, hello, it's David here, and this is one of my favourite finds from this season. It's an Anglo-Saxon coin from the 9th century. It's from Ethelred, who's the predecessor of King Alfred. It dates to the 860s, and I think it's really interesting for several reasons. First of all, coins in a monastery. You always think monks are poor, but it's a reminder that places like this would have been markets, they would have been centres for exchange, would have been centres for wealth and economic activity. So that's really interesting. And secondly, because it's King Ethelred, he's King of Wessex, and we are in Northumbria here. So we are quite a long way from his world of places like Winchester. It's a reminder that Anglo-Saxon trade and exchange could go across quite long distances. So even up here in central Britain, we're getting coins from the far south. And finally, the interesting thing is its date is just before the point where everybody's meant to have left because of the Vikings. So it's just on the cusp of the point that the Viking raids really intensify. And maybe it's to get things like this, which is why the Vikings were coming in the first place.
So there we have it, some really fantastic favourite finds from our team and from this year's excavation. But there's just one more, and it's my favourite find. It's about this big, and when you see it, you're going to be absolutely amazed. It tells such a wonderful story about the island's history. But we're going to leave you on a bit of a cliffhanger, and we're not going to show it to you just yet. To find out what it is, you're going to have to wait until we're ready to do the big reveal. Stay tuned.
Find of the dig.
This is my favourite find of the dig because it's genuine.